Welcome to the Audacious Path Show, a micro podcast. I'm your host, Andrea Scott Brown. This is a micro podcast of courage, resilience, and inspiration. Thank you so much for joining us, where our podcast is perfectly imperfect and frequently infrequent. This pocket-sized podcast is here as an inspirational nugget for you in this moment. Today, we have the pleasure of talking with Dave Baldwin and learning a little bit about a part of his audacious path. Dave creates training systems and tools to help business owners achieve scalability. Welcome to the show, Dave.
Hi, Andrea. Thank you for having me.
It's really great to have you on the show today, Dave. Will you please share with us a time in your life where you struggled to stay on your audacious path?
A time that I struggled to follow my audacious path was around 2007, just in the period of time before I had first left my job and gone into business for myself. I was struggling specifically because I was financially doing pretty well. I had a job where I was making pretty good money, had a lot of freedom, had a lot of the external things that I thought were supposed to make me happy, but I did not feel like I was living my true purpose. I didn't feel like I was living my life's mission with a high degree of integrity. I was bored and listless and angry a lot of times, and just there was a lot of restlessness. There was a lot of discontent. During that period, I had a series of insights that led me to get inspired one morning and think, what would happen if I just went for it? What would happen if I just pulled the trigger? What would happen if I just took a leap of faith and said yes to starting my own business? And the next morning, I walked into my manager's office and turned in my 3 months notice and said, I'm going to do that. I decided to pull the trigger and go for it. I wish I could say that I met with grand blazing success after that point, but I did not. It was a struggle. I spent about 3 to 4 months in a period of delusional euphoria, just because I was out of the job environment and had a lot of optimism and had a lot of savings, more importantly, and was experimenting with a lot of different things, trying to get a business off the ground, and I really didn't know what I was doing. I was just trying a whole lot of different things, throwing a lot of mud at the wall. Very little of it was sticking, while my savings were rapidly draining. And that lasted, like I said, 3-4 months. Then it got to the point where I would say after about a year out is when it started to get real scary, when I started getting down to the bottom of the barrel financially. And not too long after that, I got a notice of pending foreclosure on my house. Within that next 6 months to a year, the downward spiral really set in, and I hit a financial rock bottom. There was about a 15-year period after that. This was 2007 to 2009, so that was 15 years ago. And so during the intervening years, I just learned one little thing at a time and slowly started to rebuild things, started to learn slowly and painfully what it looked like to build a business. If there was one thing I could say that's really made the biggest difference as far as learning how to be more resilient and find my audacious path, I think it's that I learned at some point to focus as much as possible on the next small victory instead of trying to make a breakthrough success, not thinking of climbing a mountain, but just climbing the next ridge on the mountain and thinking about my next objective and learning how to really break down my goals into small, bite-sized, manageable pieces. And specifically, I try to think about now, what would a victory look like in the next 24 hours? Like, what would make me be able to say today was a really good day, not necessarily because of something that happened outside of my ability to control it, but because I took the best possible action I could take. To me, that's how I measure success now. And I think had I measured success in that way 15 years ago, things would have taken a very different path. So that is my answer to the question of where have I struggled on finding and following my audacious path.
Thank you so much for sharing your story with us, Dave, and thank you again for being on the show today.
My pleasure, and thank you for inviting me. If people want to find out more about the course, they can go to escape8to5.com, or if they want to find out more about me in general and my business, it is dave-baldwin.com. Thank you again.
This is the end of another episode of the Audacious Path Show, a micro podcast. Thank you so much for being here, and come and join us again next time. Please remember, you are not alone, and you are right where you are meant to be. Breathe in, and when you decide to do so, take the next step on your audacious path. For more inspiration and to listen to all episodes, go to audaciouspath.com and click on podcast, or look for us on your favorite podcast platform. Just search for the Audacious Path Show, a micro podcast. Here's to your audacious path.